Today I will be talking about 3 myths about side coaching in improv. Um, it will be a short little live video because this is a question I get asked a lot. I teach improv teachers about how to teach with more confidence, and as a result, teach more, have more of an improv teacher career. And this is something that I now got a few times, and I was like, it's time to bust some myths about site coaching, because that is something that I hear a lot. If this doesn't ring a bell with you, I'm just going to explain first what is site coaching. And I will tell my understanding of it, and then I'm going to bust 3 myths about site coaching. And the first one is, so wait, not the first one. First, what do I mean with site coaching? And it's basically what there's a scene happening, and I, as a teacher, I'm sitting on the side, and I might say something for in that moment. So I might say something to the players while they are playing that scene. And that is considered site coaching, or what I consider site coaching. And the thing I could, for instance, say is 2 people are playing a scene, and I might say something like, say what you feel. Or I could say something like, look at each other. Those are like things that, for instance, I could say. And the reason why we're busting some myths today is because I very strongly believe that you don't per se need it as an improv teacher, even though I am a type of teacher that does that regularly. But I will explain to you why I think it's important that we bust some myths here. All right, I got 3 for you today. First one, you need to do site coaching to be a good teacher. And I so deeply disagree with that. And here's why. Site coaching is not in the handbook of like good improv teaching, right? Just like you wouldn't say that a guessing game is important to always have in a short form show, or that I know pepper is necessary for soup. I don't know. I don't cook a lot, but is it an option to have it? Yes, you can put pepper in your soup if you want. You can have a guessing game, and if you want to do site coaching as a teacher, be my guest. Go ahead. But you don't have to do it. It's not mandatory. You can still have a great short form show and a great soup and a great career as an improv teacher without it. And I think that's an important thing to realize. Just because you maybe have come across a bunch of improv teachers who have worked like that does not mean that you have to do it. Because I basically come back to a thing that I will often say, and that is that being an improv teacher, I think, or being a teacher, there's only one goal you have, and that is that you facilitate learning. You make sure that other people learn. And if you keep that in mind, then there are a multitude of ways of doing that, right? So you can use exercises, like a bunch of exercises. You can use instruction, like the way you talk in your class about something. You can have people play scenes and experience it while doing it. You can feedback them after scenes. You can have the class feedback after scenes. You can ask them to have intentions before a scene. There are just so many options in which, in an improv teaching context, we can learn and our students can learn. And site coaching is just one of them. So that's why I think the first myth of, do you have to do it to be a good teacher? Hell no. You have to facilitate learning. That's your task. And whichever tool, could be site coaching, could be another tool, works for you and works for your students and for you as a teacher, that's the one you should learn. Use. That's the one you use. All right. Myth number 2. That for site coaching, you need to know exactly what the scene needs. And I don't think that's true. Because being a side coach, I think it's very important. I'm a big proponent of giving side coaching that is open to interpretation. Um, my favorite words as someone who regularly side coaches are things like keep going and yes, that. Like sometimes I will even point, like, yes, that. And my all-time favorite, like this is the one I use the most. Anyone who's ever been in my classes knows this. I will say more. Now, more of what? That is not up to me. Like this is of course this is how I teach, but I say the word more just to encourage someone to go like, you're already doing something and I want to see more of that. And whatever they think that is, that I hope they will do more of. Because for instance, if during a scene I think like, oh, it would be really nice if this person is playing angry, and I might be going like, yeah, get more angry at him. That means that it's my interpretation, right? So we're getting then a little bit more into the field of directing, where I from the side am becoming a little bit more of a puppet master of like, hey, I want you to do this. And um, that could be like, that's totally valid, but I don't think that should be called side coaching. I think that is directing. um, I am currently directing a format in Amsterdam, and the tone I'm looking for in that format is one of more slow burn, of silence, of romance. And that means that I will be a little bit more specific in how I side coach. So I will like say things like, I want you to be silent, or uh, I know, what else would I say? Uh, yeah, just sigh. Like that's me being a little more puppet master, right? And there's a reason for that, because I want to like hit a particular tone with that format. But when I'm talking about side coaching, I basically just mean that I want to help them do whatever they are already doing. And I think the word coaching in the word side coaching is very helpful for that, because we're not instructing, but we're trying to like support or help from the side. If you want to give side coaching a try, then I want to encourage you to look for that moment where you think that this like little nudge might help a player to make a decision. And often from the outside, we find it a little easier to see. So, and this again, like this can also go for an offline or an online space. So sometimes the online space is a little harder to interrupt, but just start training your eye for what is the moment where I see players not make a decision, where I think a decision would be really nice. And then if you have the opportunity, say something like yes, or keep going, or, take mine more. See what that does. I think that's a good first step into side coaching. Anyway, last myth, third myth, because even though I'm happy to give you a little step into side coaching, I also think it's important to realize what it is and what it is not. And I think side coaching, the myth is side coaching is for all types of players. And I don't think that's true. Side coaching is not for all teachers, and side coaching is also not for all players. And that is okay. And I think it's important to realize that. Um, in my years as an improv player, there have been, I remember a phase sort of like 2-3 years in doing improv, and I was like super self-aware, very insecure, and side coaching would like completely throw me off. I would feel like I was doing it wrong. I would actually like shut down more. It would like completely block my creativity. And nowadays, when I teach, I can immediately notice that there are players in my groups that have that too. And if I see that, I try to like back off or try a different angle. Remember when I talked about there are all these different tools you can use to make people learn? Like maybe those types of players actually need something else. They need an exercise, or they need an intention beforehand. I try to like basically I try to give them what I would have needed, which is to make them feel good first, because no side coaching will come into your brain if all the things you're thinking is just like, oh, I suck so hard, I suck so hard. Side coaching can be for any level, and it can also not be for any level. So I think side coaching can be used, for instance, for advanced players to let them break out of patterns. I often teach things like around gender traditional roles, and side coaching can really like snap them out of like patterns that the patriarchy has basically given us, which can be very helpful. Side coaching for beginners, for instance, I would use that to make them realize what's already there. Like as a beginning improviser, you might not already know that you've already given so much input to a scene, and by side coaching it, I can point it out, like you already did that, or see, I don't know what you're holding, or like having a little bit of it's already there, you already offered something. But like I said, side coaching can get people in their heads, beginners, advanced, like all types of people. They can get more stuck. And I've also had the situations where side coaching would just make people like kind of annoyed with me. They would get distracted, or they would be like, why is this person that keeps talking through my scene? And, if there are moments where I had side coach in a very directive way, and I got into a discussion whether or not that was the right way to go. So this is also why I would recommend that side coaching isn't needed, and that if you want to give side coaching a try, that it would help to have more open, because this have more open to interpretation types of side coaching, because I think it creates a better improv, and it avoids discussions on what is the right, because there is no right way, right? Which actually brings me to a very last tip, that I started saying a few years ago, that it's important to know that side coaching is also improvising, because it is in the moment. I don't know what's going to happen. That means that if from the outside you're saying something, yeah, it might completely tank a scene. And that's okay. It's kind of like with teaching. There are moments where you're like responding to what's happening in the group, and you make a choice, and sometimes, what do you know? Like it's not the best choice in that moment. And I have side coached in a way where that would not help the scene at all. And that's okay, because you're improvising. And just because players are improvising does not mean that a teacher cannot or should not improvise. Because I think this is the way how we do things. And just like with guessing games or pepper in your soup, it might not be your thing now or ever. And that's okay. All right. I hope this was helpful. Let me know what you think, or tell me in the comments the words and the ways you side coach or don't side coach, because I think that's really interesting too. Thanks for being here. Next week, I'll be back 2 p.m. Central European time. There's a very exciting thing happening next week that I will tell you more about. But keep an eye on my emails if I didn't end up in your spam, and or the Facebook page, because next week I have a big free thing for you. All right, I'll talk to you later.